Hi, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Sam.
And we're Envy Board Gaming. And today we're going to be talking about Hadrian's Wall. This is a 1 to 6 player game by Bobby Hill and published by Garfield Games. Plays in about an hour. So let's take a look at how it's played and then we'll come back and get our final thoughts.
Okay, so as you can see, I've already set up for Hadrian's Wall. No matter if you have 1 or 6 players, the setup for this game is relatively similar. Each player will get 2 sheets. They will get a player board as well as a deck. Now, what's nice is that if you play this game in 1 or 2 player, the only difference is that you will set up an additional player deck for the neighboring IA players. So if you have 1 player, you'll have an additional deck for the player on the left as well as a deck for the player on the right. And for the 2-player game, you'll set up 1 additional player to act as the other neighbor for those players. Now, what you're going to be doing in this game is it's going to be played over 6 rounds. And at the end of the 6 rounds, whoever has the highest score will win the game. To start each round, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be flipping the top card of the Fate deck. In this Fate deck, what you're going to be looking at primarily for this part is going to be the bottom half of the card. This is going to show you what resources each player will receive at the beginning of this round. So in this instance, 2 soldiers, 1 builder, 2 servants, 2 civilians, and 1 resource. So players will collect those resources. They will also be looking at their left sheet, because as the game progresses, they will be able to earn additional resources as well as workers. So if you look carefully here, there will be a resource production track, a track for citizens, and a track for builders, as well as a track over here that we'll explain in a little bit. So what you're going to want to do is make sure that you pay attention to these throughout the game, because it is very easy to overlook and possibly miss out on some resources that you should have earned. So for each bubble here, you will get an additional stone or resource for each bubble. And as you can see, even though this is the first round, there is 1 bubble already filled in. So you'll want to make sure that you collect that resource. Also, as you're going, if you build these buildings, you will be able to get additional workers throughout the game. So you will get an additional citizen for each of these 2 bubbles, an additional builder for each of these 2 bubbles, and you'll be able to move up the tracks at the bottom for each bubble filled in there. So in this game, what you're trying to do is score as many points as possible. And the main way you're going to be doing that is going to be moving up these 4 tracks. You have renown, piety, valor, and discipline. And so you're going to be looking for these different symbols, because every time you see that symbol, it's going to help you to move up these tracks. And as you move up them, as you can see, you will earn victory points at the bottom, as well as additional workers or resources as you're going further down the track. So after you've collected resources from that sheet, each player will then select 2 cards from their deck. Now, in this deck, in these 2 cards, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be picking a card to be your path card and 1 to be your prospect card. Now, the path card, what you're going to be doing is looking primarily at the top portion of these cards. This is going to give you an opportunity to score additional points at the end of the game. For instance, this one is going to give me 1, 2, or 3 victory points based on the number of large buildings that I have built in my mile castle. So if I choose this one, for instance, let's go with this one. Let's say this one is my path card. I will then take this and tuck it underneath the player board under this first section, since it is the first year that we're playing. Now, with this other card, that's going to be my prospect card, we're going to gather the resources here in the bottom left. We will then take this card and put it off to the side, as it may be used again later in the round. Either by ourselves or by our neighbors. So after we've collected our resources, you will have something like this. And since the game is played simultaneously, everybody's going to be taking actions around the table at their own pace. And what you're going to be doing is just pretty much focusing on your 2 sheets. So let's go through these sheets and kind of see what it is that you can do with these resources. We'll focus on the left sheet first. Now, as you can see at the top, this top is your mining and production, your wall, your kippy, your wall guard, and your fort. And it is broken up into 3 sections. Now, the reason this is like that is because you cannot progress past this line until you have built the medium granary. And yet again, you cannot progress past this line until you have built the large granary. So that's going to be important to remember, because it'll be easy for a lot of players to be able to just kind of keep going and not remember that they have to build that. So try to make sure that you don't go past those lines. Now, these 2 up at the top, you can go all the way over without any restrictions. However, when it comes to the kippy, the wall, and the fort, you're going to see these chains that kind of connect them. So what that means is that you cannot build your wall further than your fort is upgraded. So in order to build this first part of the wall, I would first have to build this first section of the fort. And these banners will be important to pay attention to, because it will unlock the ability to buy and build other buildings. So for instance, once I get to this level 2 banner, I will then be able to build a small hotel in my fort, and so on and so forth. So you'll be able to see that. So make sure that when you're building these, your fort is always further than your wall or kippy, or at least the very same. So for instance, if I wanted to build here or spend a resource to build that, I have to have this filled in first. Okay. Down here, I already explained this is going to be important for when you are collecting resources at the beginning of every round. Over here, you will have the training ground. So once per year, you can exchange a builder. And what you're essentially doing is training that builder to become a soldier. And then you can spend that soldier, which will be a sword, as you can see, to work as a wall guard. And as you are going across these, you'll be collecting the resources as you fill them in. So if you see this little shield, that's going to have to deal with your cohorts here at the top. You will choose whether you want to fill in the left, center, or right. And this is going to be good for you when it comes to defending against the enemies at the end of each year. And every time you fill in one of those symbols, you will gather those resources. Or, for instance, if you take this discipline, you will then move up the discipline track. The other thing that you can do here is you can do a forum, which is once per year. You can exchange any 2 workers for 1 worker of any color, except for black, as indicated there. As you build these buildings, they will give you resources and help you move up tracks. And then you have landmarks. These landmarks can only be built once you have progressed up to this monument symbol on the tracks. Once you've hit that symbol, you will be able to unlock the ability to buy or to build these landmarks. Here at the bottom, we'll discuss a little later. Now, let's take a look at the right sheet. This primarily is going to have to do with the citizen tracks. So you have traders, performers, priests, apparatories, and patricians. So what you're going to be doing is, this is where you're going to be spending your citizens. So yellow workers are going to be used to move up these tracks. And as you move these tracks, you will gain other resources or move up your little valor track or discipline track, depending on the symbol that you see. But you'll also want to pay attention to the little banners that are underneath, because as you are progressing up those tracks, those banners are going to allow you to build different buildings. So for instance, once I get to the 3 on the traders, I can build a small precinct. And then after I build the small precinct and I'm on a 6, I can build a medium, and so on and so forth. And it shows you the resources really nicely that you need to build those buildings. And each of these will have that corresponding. So you have the pink buildings with the pink track, the gray buildings with the gray track, green, green, brown, brown. And all of them will work relatively similarly, but they do have their main differences. For instance, at the market, okay, after you build the market, you can essentially trade in a stone for this little like silk in the bottom right-hand corner. Okay, and what you're going to be looking at specifically is going to be your neighbor's cards. You can see that based on the little icon here. And what you want to do is you want to get unique numbers in these little hexagons. And for every unique number, you will be able to move up the renown track. So the very first, second, and third unique number, you'll get 1 renown. Fourth and fifth unique number, you'll get 2 renown. And for the sixth unique number, you will get 3 renown. If you look at the performers, you will be able to build a theater where you'll be able to do a performance once per year, where you will essentially be able to exchange a resource and be able to get the associated rewards. You would also be able to, once you reach a 3, build this gladiator training pit. And what you're going to be able to do is you'll be able to spend both servants as well as citizens to strengthen your gladiator. And then once per year, you can battle with each gladiator. So the blue gladiator can battle once per year, and the red gladiator can battle once per year. And the way you do that is you will flip over a card from the fate track, and you're going to look at this left spot right here. That's going to indicate how many of the bubbles that you will fill in. Now, if you fill in 2, but you had 4, that means your gladiator won, and you will be given the victory reward here at the bottom. So if they won, 2 renown. However, if there was only 1 bubble and you had to fill in 2, then he lost, and you would get the piety reward at the bottom. I should also show you that instead of using your neighbor's card for the market, you can flip over the fate card and try to get a unique number there. The next thing that you're going to be doing, or the next track, will be here for the priest, where you can build gardens, which will be pretty self-explanatory. You spend those resources and then you get those rewards. Again, you'll want to look at the symbols because those could correlate to some citizen track advancements. Or you could build the temples. Now for the temples, this essentially lets you spend a worker to be able to move up the piety track as well as get favor, which I will explain a little bit later through this teach. Now, if you go to the next green track, you will be able to do paths, and this will let you essentially spend resources to be able to fill in disdain. Again, I will cover disdain a little bit later. And over here, you will be able to collect workers once per year, per column each year at the courthouse. You will be able to gather either servants or exchange a builder for 2 servants or a servant for a builder. And then it comes to the last track here. You're going to be doing diplomats, where you will spend these resources as well as a soldier and a servant in order to build that. And I'll explain this because it's favor. Again, every time you see that little symbol, that means favor, but you'll have to decide which area you want that favor to go. Favor will be used to help with protecting against the attacks at the end of every round. And then the last section here is going to be scouting, where you will spend a soldier and you'll mark off the little horse, because what you're going to be doing is you're going to be looking at either your prospect card or your neighbor's prospect card, as you can see here, and you're going to be using these little tetra shapes to fill in these squares. Whatever you cover up with that tetra shape, you will then gather those resources. Okay, so after you've spent your resources, what you're going to do is you're going to look at this player board. So for this first year, you are going to be flipping over, depending on the difficulty. As you can see, if it's easy, green, medium is yellow, red is hard. That is how many cards you are going to be flipping over at the end of the year for where you're getting attacked. And when you do this, you're going to be looking at this very top part and where the little arrows are. That is going to say which areas of your cohort it is attacking. So if it's the left, it's going to attack over here. Right, middle, okay? If you defend, great. You're going to gain valor at the end of the round based on this right here. If you defend it all, you'll gain 1 valor. Okay, if you don't, you will gain 1 disdain. And what you will do is mark your disdain down here. Okay, you'll just make a circle, and those will be worth negative points at the end of the game. Now, back to favor. So as we were talking about, we have this little card symbol that is favor. Whenever you get attacked at the end of a round and you cannot block it, you can spend favor in order to block that attack. Now, these ones at the temples, you can spend anywhere, but as you can see, it's only 1. You can spend them as they come up. However, down here with the diplomats, you have to decide where that favor is going to go before you are attacked. So you kind of gotta, get lucky a little bit, or maybe if you're building up 1 or 2 cohorts, you can send the favor towards the weakest cohort, okay? And as you're filling in those bubbles at the end of the round, if you're taking disdain here, the only way to fill those in and get rid of it is by going to the baths. And that is where you can essentially bribe these politicians in order to fill in the disdain to get rid of those negative points. After 6 years, whoever has the highest score will win the game.
All right, so that's how you play Hadrian's Wall. So what do you think? What do you like? What do you not like?
I think I like the fact that you're kind of doing your own thing in the game. There's not a lot of like I would say player interaction, but it's cool that you can kind of focus on your own things throughout the game, your own scoring. So you're kind of in like your own little world for the most part of the game. So I liked that learning it, I feel like when I was learning it, it looked like a lot. Right. But once you started playing it, it seemed like the concepts are easy for the most part. And I like that it builds off of each other. So like if you do one thing, you'll get like an extra worker, and then you can do another thing after that. And so it kind of like, I feel like there's endless possibilities.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a game that is more multiplayer, like solitaire. So you have everybody kind of just head down in their board. Yeah. So if you are a person that likes a lot of player interaction, I don't think this is probably going to be the game for you, because you're going to be pretty much looking down only at your sheets the entire game and not so much really focused on what other people do. I mean, there's the little, like the cards that might be able to interact a little bit there, but other than that, there's not a whole lot of player interaction in the game. Teaching it and learning it can be a little rough. I think it's going to take 1 or 2 playthroughs really to kind of understand the different icons and just the slew of options that you have, because it's going to be easy to miss a couple things, or not to understand, I needed to upgrade my granary before I could go any further, and just kind of understanding how each of those, even those citizen tracks work. They're all very similar, but they all also are a little different. And so if you like a game where you can chain together tons of actions, like it is crazy where you can do this and this allows you to do that and that allows you to do this, you can have massive, like great rounds, just massive rounds where you felt like you built so much and you completed so many things. But what I love about the game is that you feel like you do a ton, but when it comes to the end, it always leaves you like, man, I didn't get to do this or I didn't get to do that, which was nice because it makes me want to go back and play it again and try a different strategy. So you can always do so much, but you can never quite do everything that you want, which I like because it makes you want to go back and play it a different way. And from what I can tell, I haven't like landed on a strategy that's like superior to every other strategy. And so I feel like all of them are very, very equal as to the end game scoring. Now we've only played it on easy, and we've played it at 2-player, and we've played it at 4-player. I've played it a lot at solo, and I love it as solo. This is easily...
You could definitely play this solo.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's really no different.
Right. There's barely any difference to set up. You just set up, a couple extra decks if you're playing solo. But I love this at solo. I could play this 3, 4, 5, 6 times in a row, just trying different strategies, and I love it. You know, I'm not crazy about the whole just have this number score at the end in order to, you know, receive some sort of title. I just love doing the different citizen tracks and trying the different buildings and doing different strategies. And to me, this is my favorite solo game. If I'm going to pull out a game that is meaty and thinky and has lots of options and not a lot of setup time, Hadrian's Wall all the way.
Yeah.
Love it as a solo game. I would say if you play with people that like to cheat, don't play this game.
Yeah,
don't play this game.
To tell if they're cheating or not.
It would be impossible to know
impossible.
if they're cheating or not. But I mean, I'm hoping people are,
hopefully not.
Hopefully that's not something you have to deal with. But you know, just be aware of it. Like if you're one of those people that's always a little worried that someone might be cheating or something like that, this game will give you anxiety. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah. I feel like the iconography on it was a little overwhelming. Like looking at it initially, you're just like, there's a lot going on. But once you play it a couple times, then it's easier to understand. Right. And then you can try different things each time you play. Yeah. So, and I know one of the things I did was maybe focusing on building up my wall and then building the granaries and the buildings, but then I was like, oh, you can also build the temples and different things like that. And so, and I've noticed too, the different the different spots that you go to
like the citizen tracks.
Yeah, the citizen tracks, that kind of can be dependent on what area you're going to build up. So the temples, obviously you're going with
for the priests.
Yeah, the priests and stuff. Yeah. So you're like, oh, I want to go to the priests track. So then if I have to build the temples.
And you want to build all of those buildings, but it's impossible.
Yeah, it is impossible.
At least I feel like it. If you've done it, let me know, because I don't know how you feel.
Yeah.
What I think is really cool too is that Bobby Hill, being the designer, I think this is his first game that he's designed. I don't know if he's designed any others. And if so, I'm super excited to see if he comes out with anything extra. Also, I like in this game that you have those, it's kind of reminding me of Paladins of the West Kingdom, where you would draw the Paladins and decide which one you want to keep and which one you want to put on the top and put on the bottom. Yeah. This is a little different, where you draw 2 cards and you pick, your path card and your provision, or I think it's called provision card or something like that, but the one that's going to score you points and the other one that's going to give you the extra resources. That's great, because that also adds that replayability to the game to, maybe I want to try to complete this little quest or whatever to get these points. And so, yeah, I really enjoy this game. So thinking about scores on a 1 to 10, what would you give Hadrian's Wall?
Honestly, I think I'd probably give it an 8.
An 8?
On a scale of 1 to 10. I thought it was kind of exciting, the whole flipping the cards to see if your wall is blocked. I feel like that was kind of a cool part of the game, because when other people they're like, oh, they didn't block theirs, but
there's a little luck there to that, because you have to guess, especially I think in the early rounds. You're really just guessing.
I think it's super satisfying when you guess and you're right, and you're like, oh, I'm safe, at least for that round. Right. So that was the cool part.
For me, I think as a multiplayer game, I think I'm like at 8.5. 8.5, and that's really high. I tend not to give super high scores. As a solo game, this is easily a 9. I love this game. This is my #1 solo game. This is probably, as of today, probably my favorite game of 2021. So as of right now, I think this is by far, I don't want to say by far, there's another game that could be, but as of right now, Hadrian's Wall is definitely my favorite game of the year, and we're about halfway through the year. So far, this is my favorite game of the year. But yeah, I would say multiplayer, 8.5. Solo, it's definitely my best one, maybe 9. Not that they really, the gameplay doesn't change that much. You know what? let's just say 9. 9 across the
He's
board.
so
9.
indecisive.
Sorry. You know, it doesn't really make sense, but if you're teaching a lot of new people, it's kind of hard to focus on your own thing.
Yeah.
Because everybody's asking questions and stuff, which isn't a bad thing. I love teaching, but
it's kind of one of
does
those.
kind of be like, oh, what was I doing again? I forget.
Yeah, yeah. I
know?
feel like it's one of those. If you're teaching new people, maybe you should just kind of like just teach them and sit out.
Right.
Because it's, you know, people are gonna have questions. Like I know when we played it the first time, I was like, like what do I? Can I do this? Can I do that?
But overall, a great game. Yeah. So I'm gonna go 9. I'm going 9, 100%. I don't know why I had to flip there, but it's 9. So yeah.
Yeah.
So that's our thoughts on Hadrian's Wall. Let us know what you think. Leave your comments, like, subscribe, click the little bell icon so you get notifications whenever we post a new video. And we will see you guys on the next one. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.